The Great Escape. I'm author CJ Peterson, and my co-host over there is author Michael Scott Clifton. Welcome to season 5, episode 1. Yes, we are back. It's been a while, I know. So give me just a quick second while I'll put our links over there in the chat. I know we've got some things going on technically wise. It will not let me share any links. So we're currently on just my Facebook page. I don't know why. I can't answer that question. So I don't know why we're on our YouTubes and we're on our Facebooks. So not sure why. I can't answer that question for you. Can't answer that. But today we are starting off our season 5. We're back. We're doing good. We're at least live. So we're starting off our season a little bit on the slow, which is good because we're kind of working out a few bugs. We had to take a slight break due to my health issues, and we'll be talking about that more next week when we interview me. We decided to interview us to kind of get you guys back on track with where we are. So today we're going to starting off with interviewing my co-host over here, author Michael Scott Clifton. Mike, how have you been during our little hiatus?
Well, kept busy. We've actually crossed paths at some Comic-Cons, and usually during the year Melanie and I, we go to a number of book events, and I've got a new book published since last Book World, and working on about a third of the way through the next book, which I hope to have released sometime in late spring or early summer. So we've been pretty busy, and we have 4.5-year-old grandson that lives in Longview, not far from here. So we try to keep up with our family, and but the writing journey has continued, and I'm glad that we're back in Book World, back in the saddle, so to speak. There's so many things about writing and publishing and authors that we have learned down through the years, things to do, things not to do. I'm anxious for us to get back into that and talking about topics in terms of writing, and of course things that we ourselves are going to be looking forward to doing as well in the future.
Awesome. So have you had any books come out?
Yes. So when we had last doing the podcast, the Book World podcast, I just had released Pringle Prawn, and it's been a very successful book for me. It's sold a lot, probably the best-selling book I've had in the period of time that it's been published. I've had other books that have sold more, but they've all actually been, they've been available for a lot longer. And then the latest book is called Book World. I'm stuck in Book World. The latest book is called The Endgame, and The Endgame is kind of a departure from the kind of books I normally write, because I normally write in the science fiction, fantasy, magical adventure arena and genres. But Sports World is, there I go again, Book World. The Endgame is actually a sports romance. Many of the people that watch Book World may not be aware of this, but I was a basketball coach for 21 years. And before I got into administration as a public educator. And so it's actually, it's the sport is basketball. It has a lot of basketball action in it. And I was fortunate to have all those years, as a basketball coach, I've seen lots of basketball, of course, since then. And it's a really good story. And of course, it's a romance, because there is a main character and the female character that he falls in love with. And of course, there are problems and there's issues to overcome both on the basketball court and in their relationship. So, and it's been one of my most highly reviewed books so far. It has really been, it's really been received well. I'm very proud of the reviews that I've gotten on The Endgame. And I've had people tell me that people that I didn't even know that have contacted said it's probably the best sports action book they've ever read, and the romance part is something that they were kind of surprised that I could actually write into that and do a pretty good job at it as well. So, in terms of backhanded compliments, I'll take that as well. So,
We have a few people saying hi. Hi, Karen. Hi, Ali Rez. Nice to see you guys are joining us. So do you have any books in the future that are going to be coming out?
so currently I'm working on a book called The New Year's Man. And The New Year's Man is about a very successful lawyer who is very career driven. And his career and his climbing up the legal ladder to be a partner at a major law firm is what he's focused on. Furthermore, he doesn't believe in love. He doesn't believe that love is actually real. He doesn't believe that people actually fall in love. He's very cynical in that regard. So what he does is every year he finds a girl, starts dating her, gets her to fall in love with him. And then at the stroke of midnight on New Year's, he dumps her and tells her, I don't believe in love. I think it's time we go our separate ways, have a good life. Now, he's done this so many times that he's anticipated the young lady that he is cruelly separated from, to the point where he knows what her reaction is going to be. So he actually goes to this sumptuous New Year's Eve meal as if he was going to pop her the question, hey, let's get married. Instead drops the bomb, hey, we need to break up. I think we need to move on. And so he has a suit that he's actually had Scotch guarded so that when the wine or the drink is thrown on him, it just dribbles off and he doesn't have to have it cleaned. So in terms of cynicism, there'd be few characters that are as cynical as he is. And then, of course, he starts over. He finds another young lady to fall in love with him. But on this time around, his fairy godmother decides to intervene because she's had enough, and she decides to teach him a lesson. And that is the story of the New Year's Man.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
So that what follows is how she manages to do that. Can he fall in love? That sort of thing. So it would be a urban fantasy novel if you had to classify it generally.
Gotcha. Now, for those who aren't familiar with the books, what books do you already have out?
So I've published 9 books.
Mm-hmm.
And my first book was called The Treasure Hunt Club. And The Treasure Hunt Club is very much in vein with The Goonies, National Treasure. If you've seen any of the Indiana Jones movies, those are all movies. Many of them, I think they're all based on books, actually, that are what we would call magical adventure, where you have contemporary characters in a contemporary setting, but you have a magical object that drives the story. And in the Treasure Hunt Club, it's a magical book called the Book of Lost Treasures, which can find anything that's ever been lost, anything. But the book has rules, and the main character in the Treasure Hunt Club decides to use the book like a treasure map to get rich quick, with not so great consequences. Very much a be careful what you ask for scenario. The Janus Witch was my second book. It would be considered a paranormal romance or thriller.
Before you jump into that, didn't that win an award?
The Treasure Hunt Club?
No, Janus Witch.
The Janus Witch, let me see. The Janus Witch has won, they've all gotten the reader's favorite 5-star review. And
I don't think the Treasure Hunt Club has, but I'm pretty sure the Janus Witch has.
Yeah, all of my books have been reviewed by Reader's Favorite, which is one of the maybe the largest online reader forum, and they've all gotten 5-star ratings. The awards I've won, the Edison Jones won a National Feathered Quill Award, which is I think it's based in Massachusetts, or it's in Boston, Massachusetts, and then Pringle Prawn won a honorable mention award for the reader's favorite, which is it's national, or maybe international. I'm not sure, and so to just be in the top 3 or 4 was uh, quite an honor for me, because I don't know, there's had to be thousands and thousands and thousands of people that authors that had submitted books for review. Um, but what I'm particularly proud of is, again, that uh, all the books that I've had reviewed by professional, and well reputable, I should say, uh, sites that do this kind of stuff for authors. That all my books have gotten 5-star ratings, and of course, if you go to Amazon and you look at my books, I think every single one of them all of them are between the 4 and 5-star, and I've had a lot of different reviews, so it's not just a handful. There's quite a few. So, um, um, but anyway, I've been well satisfied with the reception. I don't do as many book review submissions now as I used to, simply because there's a million of them out there, and I don't know that if I do a review like for Reader's Favorite, I do it for myself just to see what they thought about it. And I don't make a big deal of it in terms of marketing and stuff, which I probably should. But again, this, CJ, there's a million organizations out there that rate books. And so, anyway, so the first book was The Treasure Hunt Club. The second book was Janus Witch. Janus Witch is a paranormal thriller. It's a romance. And the synopsis of it is: what happens if you take a medieval vicious witch, have her slingshot through time to present day East Texas, but she loses. But in the process of traveling through time to East Texas, she suffers complete amnesia, and when she recovers, she doesn't know that she is or ever was a witch. And so when she recovers, she falls in love with a young man whose character and personality is her exact opposite. He's kind and compassionate, and she falls in love with him. So what happens from that point forward? And of course, there's also a couple of other story arcs that go with it, because the worst witch in the coven she belonged to is the coven leader, who has also followed this witch through time, and now she's trying to find her. And then finally, a group of witch hunters whose hatred for the witches runs so deep and so hot that they risk their lives to follow them through this out of control portal, which slingshot them through time, and now they're back on the hunt again with the intent of killing all of these witches. And then let's see, my next book was Edison Jones. Edison Jones is a YA novel. Interestingly enough, I've sold more Edison Jones book to adults than I have kids YA, because Edison is a seventh grader, 12-year-old seventh grader. He's a genius inventor, and he has invented an anti-gravity magnet from which he develops an anti-gravity elevator, which makes the use of rockets to place payloads into space obsolete. Well, of course, there are the usual bad guys that would like to steal the invention and use it for their own benefit. And also, it's a story about overcoming adversity, because Edison has been paralyzed from the waist down since he was age 5, but he's used his mind and his inventions to pretty much do what he would have done with or without the use of his legs. So it's very much a science-based book. I based it on a book series that's been out of print for many, many years. And that book series was called Tom Swift. Tom Swift, like Edison, was a genius inventor, and the cool things he invented, it formed the basis for the scientific adventures that he went on, similar to what with Edison Jones. Readers may be familiar with Nancy Drew series and the Hardy Boys series. Same company, Doubleday, published the Tom Swift series as well, although it's been out of print for about 40 years now. Then the next book was actually I have a fantasy series, which CJ, the Conquest of the Veil.
One of my favorite series.
And it has 4 books. The first book is The Open Portal. The second book is Escape from Wheel. The third book, A Witch's Brew. And the fourth and last book is Cavern of the Veil Queen.
Okay, and before you jump into the series, for anybody who hasn't have this series, you need to check this series out if you are fantasy readers, because it is a very cool series. Go ahead.
Well, if you like high fantasy, if you like epic fantasy, if you like sword and sorcery, if you liked Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, that sort of thing, it very much has that kind of feel and vibe to it. Now, it is an epic fantasy tale because it is told over the course of the 4 books. The whole loaf of bread is not given away in book 1, The Open Portal. It develops through the 4 books in the series. And I tried, and I think I was satisfied with the result, to try to bring it to a crescendo there from building from book 1 to the 4th and last book. It also has a love story that runs through it, as well as a developing coming of age theme. And it took me, I believe, 5 years to write the book. I should say the series. And so it also is a little bit unique in terms of a lot of fantasy series nowadays, because in the fantasy series, Conquest of the Veil, each of the 4 books has 7 or 8 professional illustrations. These were not done in sort of a graphic novel kind of way. They were done to sort of enhance and give some flavor and an imagery to what you're reading. And then it also has a story arch, which begins each of the 4 books in the series. A story arch is what they used to do in medieval times. Instead of chapters, they did it via images. Again, these are professionally done. So it's a little bit different, a little bit unique as well in terms of having the illustrations and the story arch.
I was trying to see, I have one of the illustrations. I was trying to see what I did with it. When I changed offices, I was trying to figure out what I did with them. I don't have them. I have one of them somewhere. It's in a floating frame. I was trying to remember what I did with it, and I don't remember. Oh, I have it. I see it. Hold on.
Okay.
I knew I had one. Hold on. It's actually right here. His artist and I made a deal. I like making deals at various art shows with different authors, and if the illustrators there, it's always kind of cool. And this is one of them. This is one of the pictures from his.
That was from The Open Portal.
Yep.
Yeah, the first book in the series. And it shows the main character on her bed, basically looking like she's in space, in the chaos of space, with nothing around her but stars and galaxies. And of course, you have to read the book to get to why that is the case.
Yep, but that's one of the illustrations.
Yep. So after the Conquest of the Veil, yep, there she is.
There's the portal.
Yep. After the Conquest of the Veil, I wrote, let's see, it was Pringle Prawn. That was it. And Pringle Prawn is humorous. Imagine what would happen. The main character buys an old house, and he's very much doing all of the things he does, from the house to his career, to try to impress his girlfriend, which he would like to marry. She has a father that is very successful, and he wants the main character to support his daughter in a way that she is used to being supported, which is very well, like I said, among what rich people would do, mansions and parties and things like that. So he buys an old house because it's all he can afford. And in it, he finds a grandfather clock, enormous grandfather clock, and he decides he's going to try to get it working to sell it so that he can use the money to sort of fix up the house. But when he opens the base, he opens the cabinet that of the grandfather clock, which has the weights and the pulleys and the chains, that you use to get a grandfather clock to work. Rather than those, he finds a set of stairs leading down. And of course, curiosity gets the better of him. He goes down the stairs and he drops into the world of Pringle. Pringle is a 6-inch forest prawn who is very mischievous, and she saves his life and she helps him get back to his world, which is our world. But she decides to tag along. And and unbeknownst to the main character, when he finally discovers that she has followed him back, it's too late for her to go back. And so she zooms around in his life with her pouch full of magical fairy dust, causing complete chaos. And as she stays in his world, which again is our world, the longer she stays, the larger she starts to grow, because the less she is of her world, which is a magical world. And as she grows larger, so does her feelings for the main character. Mm-hmm. And again, The End Game is the latest book. It's a sports romance. Is very much an action. I've like I said, the feedback I've gotten on it is probably the best I've gotten on any of the books that I've written. And while I appreciate that. I think it has to do with the fact, as you well know, CJ, once you start your first book, maybe your best story, but it's always going to be something that if you could have rewritten it 10 years later after you've published 15, 20 books, it might be, it will be more polished. And so I think what's happened.
I've written my first book and it was extremely painful to do. I don't recommend 10 out of 10, but yeah, if you're going to do it, it's going to be very painful to do.
And I thought, so people ask me and I'm sure they've asked you the same thing. At these book shows, book events, Comic Cons that we go to, I get asked at least once, if not more times, what's your favorite book?
That's like asking your favorite child. I never answer that question.
And that's what I thought.
Favorite cover or two, but I don't have a favorite book. I have a character that's most like me, but I don't have an actual favorite book. Do you?
Well, no, and of course I give him the same response you did. It's like, hey, I've got 4 kids. Which one's my favorite? It's like, but what I usually tell them is my first book, being the first book, means you did it. Mm-hmm. You got started, you got it finished, you had it published. Without the first book, you can't have a second or a third or whatever. So the first book's always going to be special from the standpoint that it represents a milestone, an accomplishment of being able to do something. I still think it's
nerve-wracking still every single time you publish a book.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I still think it's one of the best stories I've written. Mm-hmm. But am I a more polished writer now, author? Well, yeah. So you may find a few LYs, adverbs, passive tense that you probably wouldn't find in some of my later books, but I don't think it detracts from the story. So, and like I said, I give credit to all of the books that I've written up to this point, people that I run to, fellow authors like yourself and others that I've had opportunity to be able to pick their brains and ask them, well, how they do things. And it's all helped to make me a better author. And I hope, and I'm sure you're the same way, that we're still not, we aren't finished. We're getting better.
You're always better. So are you a planner or are you a pantser? Or are you a hybrid of the in-between?
I'm a 101% pantser, just like you. Okay. Yep. Just like you. I can't, I don't think if I tried, I could sit down and do what planners do. And of course, they're not all the same, where you start to plot out your characters, the chapters, the storyline, and have it all in front of you like a blueprint. And then you just sort of connect the dots and go one right after another.
When I rewrote the book, I had the entire book there, and it gave me hives. I cannot imagine having it planned out. That would just drive me crazy. We have about 5 minutes left. If you had any advice that you would give, because most of yours are fantasy, so we'll lean it toward fantasy. If you had advice for somebody who wanted to write fantasy, what would it be?
Well, there are different kinds of fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
There's, and then there's subgenres of that: urban fantasy, paranormal, et cetera, et cetera. And you need to decide if you want to stay in one, do multiple, and I think also you need to you have to have a really, really, really good imagination when you're writing fantasy, but you still have to write and develop believable characters.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a swashbuckling pirate, a evil witch, a magician of enormous power, they still have a personality. They still have likes and dislikes. They still have strengths and weaknesses. And I think a mistake that some people that write in the fantasy genre is they get so caught up in the magical part of it, the fantasy part of it, they forget that the characters that they populate their world in still have to be characters that a reader can relate to and be sympathetic with, or not like an evil person, an evil character or something like that. And weak characters are a killer for a good story, what should have been a good story. And so that's what I say. Don't forget, doesn't matter what genre, you still have to have strong characters, believable characters that you populate that story with.
One thing you're good at too is sprinkling. Don't front load your story with information. Sprinkle it throughout, especially like in your Conquest of the Veil series. You spread it out. Someone asked, no, we are not a couple. I am married to my husband. He's married to his wife. We are definitely not a couple. Don't front load your story. Spread it out, especially when it comes to world building. Make sure you spread that out throughout your story. If you information dump in the front, you're going to lose your people. You have to have the hook in the beginning. So make sure to hook them in the story and then spread it out in the end. Thank you guys for joining us this week. Next week, I get to catch you up on me and what's been going on. Why did this hiatus happen? You'll find out next week when you get to talk to me. So we're interviewing me next week. Then the next week, we have the amazing George Dismukes, and you get to find out what's going on in his life and his new release, which I happen to have in my possession. We get to find out. And then the last week in July, there is a hot topic. We get to talk about AI in books and writing. And trust me, I have lots of information on it because I've caught several different posts on Facebook regarding this and different people's information on it and their points of view. So do not miss these. In the meantime, do you have any Comic-Cons coming up that they can catch you in?
Well, it's still the first of the year. We're planning on going to some of the Comic-Cons. Most of them will be going starting in May. Right now, we're going to maybe go into the SpaCon in Hot Springs. And then, of course, there's 6 or 7 that follow, but they're basically from May through November. And so we don't really get started on those until, like I said, until May, including some of the ones that you will be at.
Okay, my first one is going to be Brazoria Comic-Con in Lake Jackson at the end of February. It's February 28th and March 1st in Lake Jackson, Texas. That's the first one I will be running the floor on. That's going to be, and you can find information on that on BrazoriaComicCon.com. I know they've already announced their first guest, which is Karen Ashley, who was one of the yellow Power Rangers. They've already announced the first guest. You can find information on that at BrazoriaComicCon.com. So check it out. And that's going to be February 28th and March 1st in Lake Jackson, Texas. You can find out more information on that. In the meantime, you can find out more about me next week. Same time, same sandbox. I'll catch you guys then. In the meantime, see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
Wednesdays, 4:00 p.m. Central Time. Bye.